I will.
And sorry, folks, we're just waiting on the quorum. So should be ready any moment now.
Chairman Johnson, you do have a quorum now.
Okay, are we set now?
We're all set.
Okay. Adjust my volume. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Good afternoon, honorable members of council, Chief of Staff Washington, department heads, and members of the public. This evening, there are two budget hearings scheduled. At 4:30 p.m. is Department of Public Works, and at 6 p.m. we have the Department of Parks and Recreation. First, I would like to start by recognizing members of the Finance Committee that are in attendance this evening by doing a roll call. Vice Chair Harley, 4th District.
Present.
Councilmember Oliver, 3rd District. Councilmember Field, 8th District. Councilmember Walsh, at large. Councilmember Spadola, at large.
Present.
Council President Congo. And I also would like, okay, so noted. And I also would like to recognize any other council persons in attendance by doing a roll call. Councilmember Gray, 1st District. Councilmember Darby, 2nd District.
Present.
Councilmember Field, 5th District. Councilmember McCoy, 6th District.
Here.
At large, Councilmember Cabrera. And at large, Councilmember Mills.
Present.
Thank you very much. Mayor Pizicki presented a proposed budget to council on March 17th. This proposed budget included a proposed 7.5% property tax rate increase, 5% water rate increase, one-time use of $12 million in the ARPA funds, and also this equated to a $10.1 million budget surplus. This proposed budget would include $0 from the tax stabilization fund to balance the budget. In those figures, the proposed overall budget is general fund budget is $176.9 million, which is a $4.2 million increase from last fiscal year. The proposed water sewer fund budget is $82.1 million, and this is a $2.5 million increase from last fiscal year. This is an odd year, so the city will have a $0 capital budget program. The mayor shared his vision for the intended use of the city's budgetary funds. Now it is council's fiduciary responsibility to review the budget, conduct budget hearings for various departments, and to get a complete plan for the intended use of these city funds. By charter, council must adopt a balanced budget, and it should be the duty of council to do so at least 30 days before the end of the fiscal year. Council has shared its priorities with the mayor, which include public safety, focusing on gun violence intervention and prevention programming, neighborhood stabilization, improving education in our neighborhoods, economic development, and improving our city parks. The COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the world immensely, and the city has not been spared. We are fortunate this time around to have received ARPA funds in order to help build our communities back. The city's allocation total is $55 million. The second installment of these funds should be coming in May or June. This fiscal year, the administration proposes allotting $12 million for revenue replacement in the budget. Before I turn it over to Mr. Jones, I would like to inform everyone that public comments will be asked at the end of each department's budget hearing, and we look forward to engagement from the public. As always, public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. And if there's any follow-up information needed, Ms. Marshall Bass-Knight will track and follow up on these requests. I ask that if my colleagues have any questions, please use the raise hand feature. At this time, Now we'll turn over to Mr. Jones from Office of Management Budget for a financial overview of the Public Works Department. And then there'll be a brief presentation by Public Works Commissioner Kelly Williams, and then a question and answer from council. The floor is yours, Mr. Jones.
All right, thank you. Could you please load up the slideshow for me, please? All right, thanks. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Council President, and honorable members of City Council. This evening, I would like to present the Department of Public Works proposed operating budget for FY 2023 on behalf of the Office of Management and Budget. The department's proposed budget request, which includes both the general and motor vehicle fund, is just over $37 million. In the general fund, the department is requesting a total budget of $28.5 million, an increase of about $1.1 million or 4% over the FY 2022 budget. Personal services increased by roughly $530,000 or 5.4%. Material supply and equipment, or MS&E, also increased by $234,000 or 2.8% compared to the FY 2022 budget. While there were some staff changes, total staffing in the general fund remained the same with 120.05 FTEs. Next slide, please. Thank you. In personal services, there were two upgrades. One split funded 25% general and 75% water sewer, and one split funded 50% general and 50% water sewer. Two split funded 50% general and 50% water sewer positions were eliminated and replaced by two new positions with the same split funded allocation. All of these changes resulted in a net increase of $10,998. Regular salaries rose by $261,000 or 4.8% due to a citywide 2% COLA or cost of living adjustment, mandatory step increases for non-union classified employees, and mandatory annual reviews for executive and managerial employees. Hospitalization was also increased by $220,000. Next slide. In MS&E, contracted maintenance increased by $79,164 due to the high maintenance costs to existing structures and increased city work service requests. The Recycle Bank program increased by $83,187 based on the Vision software solution for asset tracking. The citywide municipal solid waste container program is heading into the fourth year of a 5-year program. Debt service was increased by $225,686 according to the revised debt service schedule from the accounting division. Next slide, please. Now moving on to the motor vehicle fund. The department is requesting $8.5 million for its FY 2023 budget, which represent an increase of about $249,000 or 3% from the FY 2022 budget. The following contributed to the increases. Next slide. Thank you. Repairs to equipment decreased by $48,000 due to the elimination of the initial one-time upgrade costs of the Fuel Master system in FY 2022. The motor vehicle division will continue to pay a $10,000 annual fee for the fuel management technology. Contracted maintenance services increased by $66,152 due to the 2-year fleet maintenance contract extension with First Vehicle Services. Motor vehicles and motor fuels and lubricants increased by $261,900, reflecting price increases in unleaded gasoline and diesel fuel. Next slide. Thanks. Automotive equipment increased by $317,652, mainly driven by the expansion of specialized equipment in the police department. In addition, Parks and Recreation added a small hybrid SUV to its fleet to assist with day-to-day operations in the Recreation Division. That concludes my overview of the Department of Public Works General and Motor Vehicle Funds proposed budget. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Jones. And I would like to acknowledge Councilmember Gray, who I believe has joined us. And if there's anyone else who has not been acknowledged, please just shoot me a message and let me know.
Thank you.
Seeing no questions directly for OMB, at this time, I would like to turn it over to Public Works Commissioner Kelly Williams, and if you could introduce your team and then begin the question and answer.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kelly Williams, Commissioner of Public Works. Mr. Chairman, Council President, members of City Council, staff, we're here to present the FY23 budget presentation, and this is for the General Fund and the Motor Vehicle Fund. I'd like to thank my division directors, the managers, and the employees for all the hard work that they've done last year. It was another difficult year, and Public Works continued to provide excellent, superior services to the community. Particularly, I'd like to mention our tremendous effort during the aftermath of Ida. We are resourceful and resilient, and we would like your continued support. Thank you. Now I'm going to introduce Vince Karocha, my Deputy Commissioner, and Derek Akbar, the Administrative Director. And we can start the program. So the Department of Public Works, the mission of the department is to operate and maintain critical infrastructure facilities, provide superior service for our customers, and promote resiliency. The Department of Public Works is complex. We provide a wide array of services: once-a-week recycling, residential solid waste collection, treatment and distribution of high-quality drinking water, the collection and treatment of sewage, stormwater management, cleaning and sweeping of the city streets, street construction and repairs, maintenance of traffic signals and signs, line striping, storm preparation, snow removal, debris cleanup, maintenance of the city fleet and city properties, collection and maintenance of GIS data, and much more. We do this with the intention, with the vision to provide the superior services with respect, integrity, and with the responsiveness that every customer deserves. Our priorities for 2023 are to continue the Beautiful City Initiative, keep our city clean, reduce trash, increase recycling, stop illegal dumping, improve our sidewalks, repave and repair our streets, plant more trees, maintain gateways, and support the community's efforts to beautify the city. Our second priority is to light up Wilmington. We will be completing the comprehensive installation of LED streetlights throughout all of Wilmington. And our last priority is to focus on infrastructure improvement programs, capitalizing on funding and partnering opportunities that will become available to improve Wilmington streets and sidewalks. Next slide. Performance measures. So Public Works collects over 100 data points that are analyzed every 2 weeks and are presented to the administration. Some of these include the street paving work done by the city and by contractors in a 2-week period, trash and recycling collection rates by route, total number of public work service actions broken down by group, public property, sanitation, sewer maintenance, street cleaning, street maintenance, transportation, trees, water, and engineering. vehicle fleet performance and the availability of the fleet, percent of public works service actions closed by each group and the median number of days. Specific service tasks total broken down by task, such as special pickups, catch basins blocked, dead animal removals, water leaks, sewer backups, potholes, missed trash, missed recycling, yard waste, illegal dumping, and requests for new trash or recycling bins. We measure public works service requests by council districts, and we keep a very close track of the overtime usage by division every 2 weeks. Next slide. So I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Vince Karocha to go ahead and answer the specific city council's questions that were presented to us and prepared answers for today.
Okay, perfect, Commissioner Williams. Guess we can just dive right into it. Thank you, Mr. Karocha. So I guess we just start with slide 1, just in terms of the proposed 7.5% property rate increase. Is there any strategies that Public Works has to operate in a more efficient manner so that we can, maybe stave off some of the increases that we're looking at?
So, Mr. Chair, our response is on the slide on your screen now. One of the proposals that we had was to increase cost of special pickups from the current $25 fee for non-property owners to include fees for all special pickups moving forward, or limit the number per resident to reduce the cost of landfill fees, and continue to enforce our current code and restrict commercial properties from receiving curbside trash pickup to reduce landfill fees.
Okay, got it. All right. All right. Is there a question, Ms. Bassnight?
Yeah, and Mr. Karocha, with those, that'll be something that the administration is potentially looking into for this upcoming year. That could be possible legislation in the pipeline.
That would be something that the department proposed. I'm not aware of any ordinance or legislation moving forward at this point.
Okay, now those are great suggestions and feedback. Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Karocha. I appreciate that answer. So if we can move to, I believe it is question number 2. Can we talk about, now I know we talked about this last year, in fact, seemed like this yesterday, but can you discuss how Public Works has been impacted by COVID-19 and share, more importantly, how the frontline workers, in your department have been compensated fairly for working during COVID?
Sure. Take the next slide. Public Works employees have been compensated their regular salaries and overtime when required in accordance with their respective collective bargaining agreements. And a decision has been made to award employees a one-time bonus from ARPA funding that's being handled through HR and the administration.
So specifically, and I guess we can talk, we've talked about this during Finance Committee, is there an updated timeline? I forgot to ask HR this, but I know the money's been allocated. I know we were trying to get it out by January. Do we have an expectation? Because I know both me and many of my colleagues, we get asked almost daily, if not weekly, from some of the workers about when the actual checks will be in hand.
I can
answer that if you don't mind.
Yes, just that we have more of an update, because I know we're in the final stages, but we get asked the question and we just want to be fair.
No, I understand. So the expectation is to have the checks dispersed before the end of May.
Okay. Okay, so it should be sometime this
by
quarter.
next month. Yeah.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. All right, thank you very much for that clarification. Just checking the board. All right, well, thank you very much for that update. As I know we haven't done an update in Finance Committee in a while, so thank you. So if you're, Mr. Karocha, if we could move to question 3, if we could look at different initiatives that Public Works is looking at in terms of being a smart city, and where are we in terms of becoming a smart city? And by that, I mean, for the public, you know, a city that's looking at green power, renewable energy, a sustainable city. Where are we on that path?
Okay, next slide, please. Public Works has implemented an LED program to change out all the street lights within the city to LEDs. These new lights do have smart features that allow them to be monitored remotely, thereby reducing windshield time with our crews on the street, having to go manually check lights at dark to see what lights are out. We can actually check them through a dashboard, and that's for the city, the lights that the city has just recently installed. Our sanitation division is using smart technology on city-issued trash and recycling cans, and this has saved city resources by finding and recovering the city assets, identifying vacant properties, identifying commercial properties that should not be receiving city services. The Public Works is also prepared to administer the 5G cellular technology when carriers are submit their permits, requests for installation of that infrastructure throughout the city.
And I believe, I'm checking the board. Council Member McCoy is first. The floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Actually, my hand was up for something else, but I would like to ask Mr. Karocha a question. When it comes to the LED program, not exactly certain if I'm able to identify which lights are yours or Delmarva's, but wanted to find out, are there different types or different levels of light coming from these new brackets or whatever you want to call it? You know, the new LED lights?
Right, there are different temperature of the LEDs that are available, and some of the lights that, as I was speaking to, that can be remotely accessed through the smart features. They can be dialed down so that they're not at 100% all the time. They can be programmed to be at less than 100% of intensity, and you know, to become brighter or less bright at various times throughout the you know, the evenings when they're on. But there are different temperatures of light. We have varied those somewhat for certain areas where we've installed them. But to your point, there are many more lights that Delmarva Power owns within the city. The city has a little over 2,200 lights. Delmarva has approximately 5,400 lights. So we are in the process now of working with Delmarva to have them retrofit all of their LEDs throughout the city. So, or all their lights throughout the city, to move away from high pressure sodium to LEDs. So the overall reaching goal on this is the LEDs use a lot less power. So our tariff cost for street lighting will go down in the future because of this switch out to LEDs.
Okay. May I follow up, Chair?
Yes, please.
Thank you. So is there any way for me to actually recognize just at a glance between the cities and the Delmarvas, so I would know who to contact about the dialing down of the temperature of the lights?
Well, we do have a interactive map that we can get you a link to that'll identify which lights are city and which lights are Delmarva. But if they're ours, we can take care of that. If it's Delmarva, then the request would have to go through them. They would control those lights. But we can make a link available for you. Some of the council folks, I believe, do have it already, where you can check online to see who owns what lights in each area.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
All right, thank you very much. And Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Looking forward with technology, what is the city doing toward having the ability for electric cars to refuel? Are we putting up or requiring any type of electric stations?
We have been approached by Delmarva Power, since we're not electric purveyor. They have approached us about the potential to put in charging stations, but we would have to have some legislation to go along with that. Essentially, we would be reserving spots in various areas on the street in the right of way for electric vehicles to park. So far, I've not seen any draft legislation on this, but we have been contacted by Delmarva. They do have an interest if there's a demand in areas for it. They do have an interest in providing that service.
Vince, I'm going to step in here. The administration is actually working with a outside consultant to develop the parameters around which the electric vehicle charging stations would be, and where they would be around the city, and what that legislation would look like. It's a difficult task to get a handle on the emerging technologies and how quickly everything is moving. So we, through the mayor's office, have brought in some professionals to help us guide us through, what course of action the city wants to take.
Well, thank you. I would also think there would be ARPA money available for charging stations. For that type of technology, implementation of that technology. Thank you.
Okay. And I actually have a follow-up, Commissioner Williams. I know we've had some brief contact and also with the mayor's office on this. So is it residential? Are guidelines being looked at as well for that setup? Because I know I've reached out to you about residents that aren't in requesting it. I get more and more of those requests every day. So is that going to be looked at as well?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Excellent. And do we have any idea if I know we talk about ARPA, but do we know yet if the infrastructure bill, I believe the one that was passed last December in Congress, if that could possibly be used for these green tech sector projects?
So most of that money is going to be coming through from the federal government through the state, and not directly to us. But we, as a public works group, have gathered some people and put them on a consulting contract to actually identify every possible grant and dollar amount out there that we would be eligible for, quite frankly. And so there are probably, I don't know the answer to that, but there are probably different funding avenues available for this type of infrastructure. And once we sort of get our hands around what we want the program to look like in the city, we'll absolutely be reaching out to those, reaching out for those opportunities.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you very much, Commissioner. All right, we still have a few council members with their hands raised. Councilmember Darby, you're up next.
Yes, I have a question. So I know Public Works are changing out current street lights that exist to LED. I have a few areas that I have been requesting over the last year who needs new street lights altogether. What does that process look like to request just a new street light through Public Works?
So you can go ahead and email me and make the request. Our staff looks at it to see, is it in an area where we own the lights, or is it an area where the Delmarva owns the light? Is there some lights that are out? Is there something that we can do? Barring that, then we have to go to Delmarva and essentially ask them to install an additional pole and additional lights, which is quite costly. So we try to figure out a way to do it without that, but sometimes that's the only recourse that we have. So, but you would go ahead and reach out to my office and make that request, and I forward it on to the lighting experts in our transportation division.
Okay, I'll forward the email again. Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Oliver. I have you recognized as president, and then also please let me know if you have a question.
Oh, no, I just wanted to, just follow up on the conversation that I know when I talked to someone over to Department of Transportation, they were saying that infrastructure money, they would be, Department of Public Works would be at the table regarding the electric pumps that hopefully some of that infrastructure money should assist with a few of them throughout the city, but they weren't at that level at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Vice Chair Harley?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to say that I appreciate Commissioner Kelly. I appreciate the city doing our due diligence in terms of trying to find out what is working as it relates to the electric chargers. As you know, 2 years ago, we started this conversation as it related to residents in some condos. And over the last 2 years, having residents that live in condos, residents that live in single family homes, and residents that live in row houses. Those are like 3 different ways of living that will require different guidelines to have electric chargers. So I am very interested in learning what the findings are, because again, having an electric charger in a single family home, you know, you have a garage, you have a driveway, it's a no-brainer. But when you talk about a row home and how you decide on the parking aspect of it, and we already have a lot of density, you know, in most of our neighborhoods, I think we really do need that study to understand how some of these other cities have managed that, because I think that's the biggest issue right now. You know, how do you implement them and you do it in an equitable way, but yet in a way that makes sense for the different categories in terms of the way people live. So when do you think that that study will be done? Commissioner
So
Kelly?
I'm not, so I'm just, one of the panel members. I'm not really running it. It's being run out of the planning department and out of the mayor's office, but we do have weekly, the program started, we've engaged with the experts, they're meeting with all the people in the respective departments that it would impact. So, transportation, planning, different real estate and housing. So it's moving. I don't know when exactly we're expecting a result, but maybe Ms. Washington could provide.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I can find out what the timeline is and get back to you on that, Councilmember Harley.
Okay, thank you, because I was just asked about that recently at a homeowners association.
Mhm.
And so this conversation is very timely. So thank you, Chief of Staff. Thank you.
No problem.
All right, and again, I know it's the green energy and LED programs. I know those are definitely some items, but as we move forward, we do need to focus on the budgetary items if we can, because I don't run Public Works Committee. Councilmember Oliver does. So, some of these areas we may need to flesh out more in those meetings. But nonetheless, Councilmember Oliver, do you have any?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to say, I will touch base with Commissioner Kelly and we can have them come to a public works committee and get someone from Delta to maybe answer some of these questions, because I know this is the budget. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Chairwoman. All right, and let's sync that up. All right, let's move back. If we can go to, I guess, our general fund questions first. Mr. Karocha, whoever will be handling this, we can touch on the next slide, just discuss any vacancies.
Next slide, please. So these are the current vacant positions with date of vacancy and the division within the department. We are working closely with Human Resources to fill vacancies as quickly as possible that are approved by the Chief of Staff to fill. There is an operational need for the positions, and any further reductions would impact services. These are from various positions due to, and for folks that have left for various reasons. Some of these are posted, no different than any of the other employers around the area. We're having problems attracting employees as well. So some of these had to been posted and until filled, just because we're not getting a lot of applicants applying.
All right, Councilmember Gray, question?
Thank you. No, I was just about the charging stations, that if they have experts, there's a variety of ways to address the problems that Councilwoman Harley was speaking of. That was just my comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. And Councilmember Spadola?
Thank you. Some of these have been vacant for some time. I'm just curious if, if the mayor were to suggest cutting some of these, which ones do you think we could cut entirely?
So I guess I would say none of them, because it'll directly impact your services to the community. Right now, there's a there's a bunch of street cleaning vacancies open. Street cleaning is the division that actually executes the Beautiful City Initiative. So I wouldn't cut anything there. The purchasing coordinator and the account technician are the one who, processes all of our administrative functions and getting our bills paid on time and getting, money to the contractors and to the, to the vendors who earn their keep. And then, traffic and transportation, again, we're just having a difficult time actually finding people who are qualified for the position. So my answer to that would be none if you do not want to impact any of the services that we're currently providing.
But what shouldn't the services have already been impacted? A lot of these have been vacant.
So we're filling these positions and we're doing these jobs through Temps. So okay. There are two temps on our floor in the administrative division doing, processing the purchase orders. Street cleaning has actually more than 5 temps. They've been relying on temporary employees for quite a bit. The director of transportation, that's a much harder job to fill, but the signal electrician and the traffic technicians are also being assisted with temporary employees.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner. If we could then move on to any changes with any positions. Next slide.
So on your screen now, you'll see any changes to positions. We've got a few positions that were on the previous slide that have been deleted. Construction inspector, account technician. There's upgrades to a couple of positions and 2 new positions within general fund. Some of these, actually all of these on your list here are split funded, as CJ indicated earlier.
Wait a minute. My hand is, excuse me, quick question.
Okay, Councilmember.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oliver, the floor is yours.
Thanks. I'm trying to get on the screen. When you say you upgraded a couple of positions, how many positions did you upgrade? I'm trying to get on the screen to see it.
There's one position, special assistant to Public Works Commissioner, was a title change and an upgrade.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. And then move to the next slide.
This is the planned use of overtime. You can go to the next slide. The overtime within the general fund divisions is broken down as follows: administration 10K, street maintenance 3.8K, and transportation 135K. The uses are listed there on your screen. You go next slide, please. Street cleaning at 170K, rubbish collection at 100K, and property maintenance at 42K. Again, the various overtime tasks are listed. All of our overtime must be authorized by the division director, approved by the division supervisor, and monitored through the Kronos timekeeping system by now through biweekly reports.
Thank you very much. A question on this one, we can move to number 4, Mr. Karocha, and that's going to the consultant line. You know, we noticed it's about $1 million. I know you touched on it briefly, you and Commissioner, just a few minutes ago, but can you talk about the consultants and whether any are DBEs and if there's any cost savings we can have there?
Okay, all right, if you can go to the next slide, please. This is broken up between our consultants, engineering, and the temp agents. They make up this character group on the CK report. Some of the vendors that are known are listed there, where we've been using some folks for like Randstad for project management support throughout the building, climate registry, and there's engineering, JMT, Pannoni, Diamond State Engineering for various services that are going on throughout the general fund at our various public works sites. None of these are DBEs that I'm aware of. The ones that are, I have highlighted further down in the presentation. They would be bold and italicized, but none of these that I'm aware of are on the city's list.
All right. Thank you very much. Any questions on this one? If we could move into the next slide. Can we talk about the other fees? Sorry, Ms. Bass-Knight.
Yeah, Deputy Commissioner, for your integrity staffing for the temp stair, are those the individuals? Since I'm sorry, did someone say something?
I'm sorry, I was looking for the screen. I'm sorry, I didn't see the screen you was talking about. I'm sorry.
Okay, so as I was saying, Mr. Karocha, for those temps, are those some of the same individuals you were referencing before regarding some of the positions that still haven't that are still vacant?
They are. They're in the following slide, I believe. So there's a couple of different parts to this question. Essentially, that ask, why we're bringing in people, and if to use for temps, for engineers, and all that. So this slide here essentially speaks to that part of the question. We've got a lot of projects that are going on, and we have trouble in some instances attracting staff that can run some of these larger projects. So we engage with outside consultants or engineers and bring them in to assist us with projects. If we can go to the next slide, please. This to Ms. Bass-Knight's question, this talks about the various temps and some of the amount of time or length of service that they've been with us, and the rates that they're currently being paid.
All right, Councilmember. Oh, sorry, she just put her hand down. All right. So I don't believe there's any more questions. Thank you, Mr. Karocha. At this time, then we can move to question 5 about the recycling and landfill fees.
Okay. Okay, so
wait, sorry, Councilmember Oliver. She had her hand up, and then it was down. Now
I'm
back
sorry,
up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was on my phone now. I'm on the computer. Now, that fleet of service administrator, where are they located?
That's down at the yard at the Turner building.
Okay.
Okay. All right. All right. The floor is yours.
Okay, so the other fees, landfill fees and recycling, with some subsections of the question. If you can go to the next slide, this is broken down on about the next 3 slides. So landfill fees for FY23 are budgeted at $2.072 million. This includes the disposal of approximately 28,000 tons at $71 a ton. We've seen a 40% increase in collection tonnage due to COVID. With all the people at home, there's a lot of basement cleaning out and all this going on, so the tonnages have been record breaking. Recycle bank program also makes up 351,000 of this. And the funding in that line is for the planned replacement of 10% of the existing recycling containers. The next part of the question asked about the tonnage collected for each fiscal year. That's on the chart below that, along with the tipping fee per year. As you can see, it did go down to $70 in fiscal 22 because we signed a new agreement with DSWA, but it is slated to go back up $71 a ton again for fiscal 23. If you go to the next slide, please. The other parts of the question was the diversion rate for each fiscal year by fiscal year. So your diversion rate is in the column on the right, first chart. The chart on the right is fiscal year and the special pickups and revenue generated from the special pickups is in that chart. The next part of the question asked about commercial collection, and this was something that was looked into before we went into the container program, and it was investigated, and that's really not an area we want to be in, because with us being subsidized by tax funding, we could potentially see lawsuits from private haulers because they can't compete with us. Next part of the question asked about recycling. Not all homes have recycling due to the resident opting out of the program or due to continued gross contamination of the containers. We have to hold the contamination level for recycling to a very low rate now, or we get fined at the MRF facility if the level of contamination is too high, and they spot check these loads on a regular basis. We do, as I said earlier, plan to replace 10% of our containers each year. Currently, around 65% of constituents have been converted over to the new carts. Of the older carts still in service, 95% of them have been retrofitted with the GPS RFID tag for our new system. The older carts are then swapped out whenever service is needed on a cart or as requested by constituents. And the sanitation division is using Rig software for cart tracking and work order tracking of their carts.
All right, thank you very much,
Okay.
Deputy Commissioner. Now we can move to the contracted maintenance account category and what the breakout of that is.
Okay. So those are the sub lines that make out the major character group of contracted maintenance. If you can go to the next slide, please. And the second part of the question was discuss cost sharing for Amoresco and the benefit to the city, as well as specifying any shared costs with Newcastle County. Okay, if you can go to the next slide, please. And these are the line items with dollar amount per line that break up the contracted maintenance character group. Repairs to equipment at 84.5K. Items under that are listed in the bullet points. Repairs to buildings and structures at 150K. This is a lot of the maintenance and activity that goes on down at our municipal complex. If you can go to the next slide, please. Repairs, miscellaneous repairs at 10K for repairs at the municipal complex and the mezzanine. Repairs to roads and appurtenances. Building maintenance at 1.4 million. These costs are split and shared with Newcastle County. It's based on the occupancy of the building. It's at 70% city, 30% Newcastle County. And green space maintenance for our major gateway plannings at 200K.
Okay.
The Amoresco project is split based on the occupancy 70-30, as was indicated on the previous slide. And the improvements that were made to the city-county building as part of this project have resulted in lower overall energy cost, and they have allowed the city to thereby allowed the city to install upgrades to our heating system to convert over from fuel oil to natural gas. and to upgrade lighting throughout the building.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions? Let's move on to the next slide. We can discuss briefly just municipal street aid and LED street lighting. Again, keeping in mind that I know the LED project is it's a much debated project, and it's something that probably would need to be fleshed out more fully in public works meetings.
Okay. Next slide. Okay, so our municipal street aid is budgeted at the same level as FY22. That's 1.216630. This is used for electricity costs for street lights and signals. And as part of the next LED phase, Delmarva will be installing 3,414 LED street lights in fiscal 23.
Okay. Ms. Bassnight?
Yeah, Mr. Karocha, did the state ever look to increase that amount that we receive from Municipal Street Aid? Because it seemed like it's always been like relatively flat. Do we have to ask them for the increase, or they just always have that as a set amount?
So the amount is based on lane miles of road and population in a formula that they use. If the state was to authorize more money in their budget, their general fund budget for municipal street aid for a year, then we get more. But it's based on a formula for all the different municipalities based on lane miles and population. So that's what determines the amount. The only way we would be able to get more is if they allocate more to municipal street aid in their budget.
Thanks.
Sure.
All right, Deputy Commissioner, I believe we can move to the next slide, just about electricity costs. Do you have any insight there?
Sure. If you can go to the next slide, please. Okay, so our costs for electricity have been managed through our procurement process with our vendor Enstrat Analytics. We have, as I said earlier, converted over through a city project 2,267 streetlights that are now at the lower tariff. Cyberlink Train has not yet provided an M&V report for those LEDs, but we would be expecting that by the start of the fiscal year, July 1. That determines what our costs would be if we had not done anything versus what they knew, what the cost actually experienced are and what the savings is under the ESCO contract. And as I said earlier, by the end of 23, Delmarva Power streetlights will be changed to LEDs, and they will also move to a lower tariff rate as well, thereby saving electricity costs for the general fund.
Councilmember Oliver, you have a question?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Vince, do we have the amount roughly how much we'd be saving on the streetlights when you just said it was a savings with the LED?
Yeah, I would have to pull that out. I don't have it right in front of me. I'd have to pull that out of the Delmarva contract because they actually did give us a breakdown of cost. That's something we can certainly provide for you.
No problem. Thank you.
Sure.
All right, Deputy Commissioner, there's no more question on this line. We can move to the next slide about the approximately $600,000 for the construction and repair line.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the construction and repairs line is broken up with the following subgroups: traffic signs and signals for $62.5K for LEDs, roadway markings, $45K for pavement markings and straight line marking, and material supplies for roads for street cleaning for road salt, sand, and ice bite solution. If you go next, please. And the equipment part of that is broken out for furniture, fixtures, and office equipment, and other non-capitalized equipment for $22.5K for supplies for our sanitation and street cleaning divisions. And the last part of the question asked about road salt amount spent. So for fiscal 2021-22 year to date, the amounts are in the chart below that.
Okay. If we could then move to the next slide. Any highlights on the rentals account line?
Okay, go to the next one, please. All right, so the rentals group is made up of the following items: rentals for 34.6K. The major item in that line is a rental for mechanical equipment for snow removal when we have large snow events. Also, the parking fees for this building are in there for 82K, and rentals not otherwise charged for some smaller items, hours sanitation and miscellaneous rentals and so forth.
Okay, Councilmember Oliver.
Yeah,
Georgia.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And then somebody to ask you, why don't we just buy that equipment? Why do we rent that? That equipment is just too large for us to.
The cost on those triaxle dump trucks were 250, 300,000 a piece,
I
and
got you.
then we need to have drivers to use them. And then if the vehicles aren't being used, they're depreciating a lot. When we need that big equipment and we need to bring in 20 to 30 loaders and backhoes for an event, it's just a lot more reasonable cost to just rent what we need. There have been, for the last number of years, where we've not had any big snow events, we've really not had to touch this line. It's just when we get bigger events with 6+ inches and we have to get into snow removal is when we have to utilize this contract.
All right, thank you very much. I think we're ready to move on to the next account grouping, the miscellaneous service account line. Do you have any highlights there?
Okay, if you can bring up the next slide. Okay, the items that make up the miscellaneous services line are here. The one highlighted, P. Wilson Exterminating, is a DBE vendor that we've been using at the municipal complex. Some of these range from our network fleet software agreement with Verizon to disposal of dumped tires to janitorial services that are bid contracts. Those are the type of items that make up this line.
All right. We then move to 12. Next question is about the parking meters replacement program.
Okay, you can go to the next slide. I'll give you an update on that. All right, so Transportation Division is planning to purchase an additional 50 single space meters in 23. There's 35 that they have identified as out of service that they were going to replace those. The remaining 15 would be reserved for future replacements to be used as needed. And Transportation has been working closely with Finance to make a move to kiosks citywide. My understanding is that Finance is going to be requesting funding in 23 for the purchase of 80 kiosks. And if we do make the move to kiosks, this will reduce costs moving forward and reduce the required number of backup units as opposed to the single space meters that we have deployed now.
Councilmember Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. When we Vince, quick question. When we go to the kiosk, would that remove jobs for individuals who's working with the meters?
We've had to backfill some of those positions now with temps to at least within our division, who are the ones that collect the coins from. I guess from the ticketing perspective, from Prios, there's going to be just as many to go around, whether it's single space or the multi-space kiosk. That function would still have to happen, but we've been having trouble filling some of these vacancies and do use temps to get the coin collection work done.
May I follow up?
Yes, please.
So I'm gonna ask that again. I mean, to my understanding, and read in some stats from areas like Baltimore, Atlantic City, Virginia, when they put in these the kiosks, it removes individuals' jobs. I know you're saying that we are using the temp, and I think all of this is occurring because of COVID and everybody's trying to get back into the working world. But so again, once you put in just say if you put in these 80 kiosks, that will automatically remove some job opportunities. Is that the case? Do you see that?
I foresee us, like, we've got a couple people that are assigned in the traffic shop now to do the collection of coins and the repairs of meters. We've got enough other work going on within that division. We would most likely reassign them to assist with other work. That's a small division. I don't foresee us eliminating any positions down there if we were to move to kiosks. And with the smart meters now, a lot of the smart meters that deployed folks are able to pay with cards now. So some of them, there's coins to collect, others no.
Okay.
Right.
All right, let's move quickly to the motor vehicle fund.
Okay.
We can move to the next slide.
All right, so this
Commissioner, do you have anything about any comments on the total budget line for fleet?
Okay. Yeah, these next two slides, essentially, this is the replacement plan that's projected for fiscal 23. The question was asked by department, by vehicle, and by cost. So if you can go to the next slide, that's the next part of it. And there were four that CJ spoke to at the beginning when he opened the presentation up. And those four vehicles that were added by the Chief of Staff or approved by Chief of Staff are listed as added and new on the bottom of the report.
All right, very well. We can move to the next slide about miscellaneous services.
This also asked about the proceeds from auction vehicles, and I spoke with procurement, and they handle the disposition of vehicles. So according to them, $385,892 is the proceeds from the auction vehicles that we've received.
Okay, all right. Now the next slide.
Chair.
Oh, sorry. Missed it. First, I'll count. Actually, let me start first with Ms. Bass Knight.
Yeah, Mr. Karocha, you talked about the new fleet vehicles. One of the vehicles is a new EMG van crime scene for $350,000.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does that entail? I mean, with that price, I'm not sure. Is that like, I know it's a new, do we have any other vehicles similar to that, or that's just a specialized vehicle?
It's a specialized piece of equipment, an emergency crime scene investigation unit that was requested by the police department. There were actually several that were requested. Chief of Staff only approved one. We reached out to the vendors that create this type of vehicle, got pricing for it, and that's what the budget amount in the line represents, the price that was received from a vendor. We would still have to either put this out for bid, and the price could be subject to change, but it's a very expensive vehicle because of all the equipment and the upfits on it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Now, Councilmember McCoy.
Thank you, Chair. My question is actually very simple. I recall having a piece of legislation asking about getting notification or council receiving notification as vehicles were going to auction. Is that something that we're still doing? Because I don't recall ever seeing any.
I mean, I can speak to a council member. As far as the disposition of vehicles, that's actually handled by the Finance Department, Division of Procurement. So I'm not sure what they send out. I do know that they post all of the vehicles that we have to dispose of on a website called GovDeals. That's the auction site that they use.
Okay, so basically it's just basically public knowledge, but we're actually not receiving anything specific for council.
Not that I'm aware of, but
okay.
That would be procurement.
Yeah, so I think that was something that you wanted to send out to all employees. I'm not sure how finance handles that notification, but I believe it does go out, and we'll just have to follow up on that one.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. I said I didn't know whether or not it was all employees or whether or not it was council or whatever, but I do.
No, I think you wanted it sent out to all employees.
Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you. So if you would mind making us aware of how it actually goes out, and so that we can actually start seeing it. Thank you. Or myself, because I'm just going to speak for myself. I hadn't seen it. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We have a few members. So Councilmember Oliver, I believe you're next.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to follow up with Councilwoman McCoy just spoke on. That was a piece of legislation I introduced, and I would like to say, what's the purpose of doing the legislation if you don't see any outcomes? That no one has seen any legislation go out to any employees in reference to the auction cars that employees should have. I know we can go online and we can look at it because it's public knowledge, but that was the purpose of the legislation, to allow city employees to look at that list. And it was supposed to be sent out, and I think HR has something to do with it. But nevertheless, it was a piece of legislation that was passed, and that I never seen anything come from it. I know I rode over South Bridge and looked at the auction cars before, because I remember some college kids had got, I know two parents had got two of the cars for their kids for college. So I thought it was good. But one of my constituents had called and stated that she wanted to know how she could possibly find her daughter a car. And that's where that legislation came up. And she's a city employee, and nothing ever happened with that. So if somebody, Ms. Bass Knight, if you could follow up with that, it'd be well appreciated. Thank you.
All right, and Vice Chair Harley.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't want to belabor the point. My quick question is this auction only once a year, or is it more than once a year?
So this typically happens whenever there are cars that need to be disposed of. We don't have a lot of space down there at the yard, so if council members are going down through the complex and see them sitting there, a lot of times they're sitting there due to insurance requirements because they were involved in accidents, and we're waiting for the insurance adjusters to settle the claims. But when we try to stay on it pretty frequently with procurement, give them the list of vehicles that need to be disposed of so that they can keep them, move them out of the complex to free up parking space down there. So we do it on an as-need basis, but it's typically several times a year.
Awesome. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
All right, Deputy Commissioner, if we can move back to finish up, and then we're running short on time. So if we can just move to the next slide. Any highlights there?
Okay, so this is miscellaneous services account group. You can go to the next slide. This is the fleet management and maintenance contract. It's First Vehicle Services is the vendor. This 2.081 million for FY2023. Contract term expires on June 30, 2025, including the options, and they provide all our fleet inventory maintenance, preventive maintenance, emergency repairs, and so forth. Also within the lines, the AIM Fuel Master annual maintenance agreement. That's our fuel management system. We also have the Titanium plan, which is the cloud-based data service and service for reading of the fuel modules at the fuel island. Can you go next slide, please?
Okay. So can we discuss the fuel line? Fuel
Sure.
account line?
Absolutely. So
any highlights there?
All right, so I've got a couple slides on that one for you. If you move forward, please. Okay, so unleaded gasoline, 850K. This is based on actual usage gallon for the previous 12 months, 335,000 gallons of gas, 150,000 gallons of diesel. Our contract pricing for fuel locks in delivery charges only. The price of the products fluctuate based on market conditions, and our costs are roughly 42 cents per gallon less than retail because of our tax exempt status. Next slide, please. The question asked our average price, and this is the average that we paid over the preceding 12 months by product: small tank diesel, large tank diesel, and gasoline. Our next part of the question asked about how we monitor that only authorized vehicles are able to get fuel. We use the AIM Fuel Master system. It is on all the city vehicles. It requires a city ID badge to dispense fuel, and a vehicle VDM must be in the database of vehicles for that vehicle to receive fuel. If both of those conditions aren't met, no fuel can be dispensed. Okay, if you go next slide, please. This just to give you guys, council, an idea of what's been happening with gasoline and diesel prices. This is a nationwide chart for from May to May, 1 year, from 20 to 21, 1 to 22, you can see that there has been a significant increase in fuel prices, hence the increase in our budget. Okay, next slide, please.
All right, thank you very much, Deputy Commissioner. If we could go into just any highlights with equipment repair line.
Okay, so the question was about non-target repairs. This is essentially accident damage and non-warranty repairs to vehicles. It's budgeted at 1.04 million for FY23. If you can go to the next slide, please. This gives a breakdown by department. This is for fiscal 20. It asks for 2 years. If you go to the next slide. It's fiscal 21 by department. And if you can go to the next slide. This is fiscal 22 year to date by department.
Thank you very much, Deputy Commissioner. If we can move to the next slide, any highlights on the consultant account line?
Okay, if you go to the next slide, please. So we have one consultant that we use. It's Mercury Associates for fleet administration and management assistance for $45,000, and they help with our internal service chargebacks and fleet management and replacement programs and independent verification of maintenance costs. We have reduced these costs quite a bit here over the last number of years, and reducing the amount of travel to the site. We have the consultant working remotely most of the time.
Okay, all right, thank you. And if we can move to the next slide, just any highlights on equipment rental. We noticed that, I'm not sure if this has to do with the dump trucks, but it was $0 to spend it. You have budgeted $55,000.
All right, if you can go to the next slide, please. So what this rental is, Mr. Chair, this is for rentals within the motor vehicle fund. So the equipment rental within street cleaning is for snow removal equipment. In this case here, rental cost in motor vehicle, we place money in the budget in case we have to rent specialized equipment if our equipment's out of service or if we need a specialized piece of equipment. We've used this for bucket trucks, front end loaders, fire apparatus. We've rented vans for parks, for special events and that type of thing. So if there's no need in a particular fiscal year to rent anything, we don't spend the funds. If there is a need, then we'll utilize the funds. Like say, if a bucket truck's down and it's preventing us from getting our work done, we'll go out if possible and try to find a rental truck to use until the repairs to our vehicle can be made or a new vehicle can be secured.
All right. There any just the kind of the last tying this up is either you or Commissioner can answer the question about, I know Councilmember Spadola asked, but is there any suggested places where we could look if we were looking to do a 2% reduction to the budget?
Okay, well, if you want to jump over these next couple slides, these were the next three are the org charts.
Yeah.
Okay, and then that last question is after we have three org charts in here because of the size of the departments and the divisions. If you can go to the next slide. That's water system division, and then the next slide's our operations division. Okay, and then these are highlighted with red for temps and green for vacancies, just so everything was kind of presented graphically on the chart. And the next question, next slide, please, is the question that you had asked about 2% cuts. And if you go to the next slide, our response. Thank you. So again, we're speaking about the LED replacements will reduce our overall electricity cost in the transportation division. Increasing fees for special pickups will offset the cost of rising landfill fees, and identifying commercial properties and enforcing our current code will also reduce landfill costs. Those are one of the suggestions that we had moving forward.
Okay. Very well. Councilmember Spadola.
Thank you. Just so I understand correctly. So the first the replacement of LED streetlights, and that is ongoing, correct?
It is. That's happening now. So we've got it'll be happening through 23. I believe they'll be finished up by October in fiscal 23 with the Delmarva replacement. There's approximately 3,400 lights that they will be replacing.
Gotcha. And the last one as well. That is a work in process. Is that right?
That is a work in progress. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Councilmember Fields.
Yes, thank you, Council Chair. Well, my question was going to be about the commercial properties and you enforcing the current code. But what about the what about the houses? What I want to say the houses that like WHA and CHI, where they're supposed to be taking care of their own trash.
Mhm.
Are we looking into getting that money from those management companies as well? Have we targeted them?
So my understanding as far as WHA, they have their own trash collection for their properties. If we become aware of any property, call it a residential property where there's more than 3 units, they're issued a notice where we will no longer collect them because that's what the code says. If it's 4 or more units, then they're responsible for their own collection. We don't do commercial properties, so that's identifying these can be difficult because they're putting cans out just like all the other constituents. So it's not easily recognizable sometimes what cans are coming from where. So as we do identify them, we enforce the current code and give them notice that and we give them time to find a private hauler to handle their we don't cut them off right away, but we will eliminate them from our pickup routes since the code says we're not supposed to pick them up.
Have we seen any increase in the fundings from that since we're forcing the code?
Well, it will show up in the in the reduction of landfill fees. So I can tell you, since I've been doing this, we used to do about 32,000+ tons a year was what we budgeted for, and we're down to about 28,000 tons a year at $71 a ton for landfill fees. So we have seen an impact. Our sanitation division tracks those numbers weekly, so they could give you additional information if you require it as to what's happening on each route in each district.
No, that's fine. I just kind of wanted to know if we were recouping any money from enforcing this code. Other than that, thank you very much for doing a great presentation. I appreciate it. Thank you, Commissioner Williams, as well.
Thank you very much.
Councilmember McCoy.
Thank you, Chair. My question was to the second response, increasing the fees for the special pickup. This seems a suggestion. Was there an actual amount that the administration considered in order to really see, I guess, more revenue come in?
Well, I could just explain to you how it's currently being done. So right now we charge a $25 fee for non-residents. So if it's a renter at a property, they pay the fee, and that's handled by our call center. Right now, we don't charge like a property owner. If you're the owner of the home, we don't charge anything, and we don't have a limit on the number of special pickups. So as you can imagine, we get whole house clean outs and things like that, and the tonnage can be rather large. So again, our suggestion would be to look at either instituting a fee of say $25 for everybody, or limiting the number of special pickups for residents to offset the rising landfill fee costs.
Okay, so that if I can follow up, so you're basically stating that it's not so much that the amount, the $25 actually go up, it's just the frequency of how often the homeowners will be able to use it. And then maybe, I guess after that certain amount, we would all have to pay 25. Is that what you're suggesting?
And that's a possibility where we potentially give a homeowner, one or two special pickups a year, and then anything over and above that, they would have to pay the fee just like a renter would. But the cost for disposing of that tonnage keeps going up. I mean, since I've been doing this, we were about $64 a ton about 15 years ago. And now we've been as high as $74 a ton before this last contract, and it's going to go right. It's going up $1 a year every year for the next couple of years. So next year we'll be at 71.
Okay, thank you.
I can actually speak to that. So the administration is looking at it very closely. They're taking a look at how many requests for special pickups there are a year, which is over 14,000. and that we service all of those requests. So you can imagine the number of man hours it takes to service 14,000 requests just by even picking up the phone and scheduling them, then collecting the fee, and then going out there and actually performing the duty. And there's an analysis that is actually going on. Some of the council members have reached out to me to look at, proposing some legislation. It's not an easy fix. It's something that Wilmington is unique to Wilmington. Almost no other city in the country provides this level of service to its constituents. So we don't have much to compare it to, if you will. And there are lots of different other options. Like we could cut it off completely and make everybody do a private service, like, junk, the call for junk or whatever. And, that could range between, a normal pickup would be in the $500 range, or we could continue to keep the services. And, there's just a range of options, and it's not a very simple answer, and it really has to do with what level of service that we want to provide to the constituents.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for giving me more of an explanation. I just wanted to see whether or not that was fleshed out anymore, but it does seem as though you are considering, you have a few considerations to try to offset those costs.
You could do it by weight. You could do it by the size of what you're picking up. You can do it by, the type of item that's out there, whether it's a couch or a refrigerator or whatever, and charge by that. Or there's so many different, ways to do it that it's going to take a lot of consideration on what the best way is and what the best fit is for the city.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have nothing else, Chair.
All right, Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I may have a misunderstanding, but did I hear that the city is no longer going to pick up trash that's not in a city container, in a city trash can?
That is correct. Yes, we put out a statement about a week and a half ago that suggests that we're not going to pick up trash in any other container other than the city container. We've been having issues with a particular type of container that's out there made by Choder, and it has been causing some serious accidents and close misses with our staff. So we're no longer willing to accept that risk any longer, and we will only take city issued containers.
Okay, thank you very much. But I just walked around my block earlier and I saw there were 2 full trash cans. It looked like city cans, but they weren't identified as city's cans. And the city cans have been emptied and they're still sitting there. So
the toter cans that that I've essentially given my men the instruction to not pick up because of the significant safety issue.
Thank you. I understand, but I don't know if the residents all know that, or was it put out publicly by email or water bill, or?
It was put out publicly, and then our guys are putting on stickers and they're talking with the communities while they're out there. So if you have one of these sort of these dangerous carts, you'll get a sticker that says that your cart is not an appropriate cart, and to call the 311, and the people in the Public Works call center will have that conversation with you. You can also constituents can also request a bigger cart if they feel like one cart is not enough. And you can do that through the 311 system as well.
Oh, thank you very much. But I didn't see a sticker on these 2 cans. So please encourage the workers to put the stickers on them so the residents will know. And when we have our community meeting, I'll bring it up. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you very much, Commissioner Williams, and also Deputy Commissioner Karocha. I want to turn briefly to the public if there's any comments or questions. All right, going once, going twice. Now I'm going to turn it back to members of council for any final comments or questions. All right, not seeing any. So at this point, I would like to thank Mr. Jones from OMB, Commissioner Williams, Deputy Commissioner Karocha, and Mr. Akbar for presenting this afternoon. And as always, any follow-up information, I ask that you provide it to Ms. Marshall Bass, Lansing City Council. At this time, I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
any opposed? All right, this concludes the Public Works Committee budget hearing. We are running slightly behind schedule, but not too much. So if we can begin Parks and Rec Department at 6:10 p.m. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
WIT, and can you hear us clearly?
We can hear you.
All right, thank you.
There's a little bit of an echo.
How about now? How's it sounding?
That's better.
Check it now, all right? I'll be checking.
Good evening, everyone. Okay. Is everyone ready? WITM?
We're ready for you.
Okay, perfect. All right. Good evening, honorable members of council, Chief of Staff Washington, department heads, and members of the public. At this time, I would like to call to order the Finance Committee budget hearing for the Parks and Recreation Department. I would first like to start by recognizing members of the Finance Committee that are in attendance this evening. Vice Chair Harley, 4th District.
Present.
Councilmember Oliver, 3rd District. Councilmember Field, 8th District.
Present.
Councilmember Walsh, at large. Councilmember Spadola, at large.
Present.
Council President Congo.
Here.
All right, and at this time, I would like to also recognize other council persons in attendance by doing a roll call. Councilmember Gray, 1st District.
Present.
Councilmember Darby, 2nd District. Councilmember Fields, 5th District.
Present.
Councilmember McCoy, 6th District.
Here.
Councilmember Cabrera, at large. Councilmember Mills, at large.
Present.
All right, thank you.
Councilwoman Oliver, I'm sorry.
Okay, so noted, thank you. And as always, I'd like to inform everyone that public comments will be held at the end of the Parks and Recreation budget hearing. We look forward to participation from the public. Public comment will be limited to 3 minutes. And if there's any follow-up information during any of the budget hearings, Ms. Marshall Bassnight will track and follow up on these requests. I ask that if my colleagues have any questions. As always, please use the raise hand feature. And at this time, we'll turn it over to OMB for a financial overview, the Parks and Recreation Department, and then followed by a brief introduction by Parks and Recreation Director Ian Smith, and then a question and answer session. Floor is yours, OMB.
All right, thank you. Could you please load up the presentation? All right. Good evening once again, Mr. Chairman, Council President, and honorable members of City Council. This evening, I would like to present the Parks and Recreation proposed budget for FY 2023 on behalf of the Office of Management and Budget. The FY 2023 proposed budget for the general fund and special funds combined is $11.3 million, up $455,000, or 4.2% compared to the FY 2022 budget. The majority of this increase is driven by personal services, up $417,000, or 8%. Material supplies and equipment, or MS&E, is also up $75,000, or 3.5% compared to the FY 2022 budget. Total staffing across all funds is 41 FTEs, up 1 FTE from the prior fiscal year. Next slide, please. Thanks. The general fund proposed budget is up $384,000, or 4.1% compared to FY 2022, with a $365,000 increase to personal services and a $57,000 increase to MS&E. The new addition to FTEs can be seen here in the general fund, up 1 FTE from FY 2022, which I will discuss in a minute. Next slide. Thank you. The special funds, which consist of the Parks Assistant Fund, Parks Trust Fund, and Workforce Investment Board, or WIB, increased by $52,000, or 8.3%, with personal services being the primary factor, up 16.2%, or $41,365. Next slide. Thank you. As I mentioned in my prior slide, this new addition to FTEs is due to the return of the executive director position in the William Hicks Anderson Community Center Division for an increase of $107,815 to the personal services. Temp salaries have risen by $20,622, mainly due to the increased pay rates and expanded weekly hours for the Youth Career Development YCD workers and youth workers within the Youth and Family Division. Employee benefits costs increased by $172,667 due to larger pension contribution and citywide rise in medical and prescription costs. Next slide. Now on to the MS&E increases and decreases. With the lift of COVID-19 mask and vaccination mandates, travel increased by $12,000 as annual conferences and professional development training resume in person. Equipment rental was decreased by $10,000 to match and closer reflect year-to-date and last year's actuals. The maintenance division increased contracted maintenance by $40,000 for various repairs to park infrastructure. Next slide. In addition, repairs to building and structure was increased by $10,000 to assist with upkeeping costs and structural maintenance to the city parks. Equipment costs have decreased by $10,500 and have largely been reprogrammed to the consultants line, up $9,500 from FY2022. The reprogramming of funds is reflected within the admin division and will assist with the development of innovative community-based programs. That concludes my overview of Parks and Recreation Department, FY2023 proposed budget. I will be happy to answer any questions that you may have at the moment. Thank you.
Ms. Bassnight?
Yes, Mr. Jones, just one question. You mentioned about the special funds, the park assistant funds, the park trusts, and the WIB funds, which has a total of $1.5 million. So I'm looking at the chart on the second page. With that, do we typically talk about like what those funds consist of?
Regarding,
like, for example, the MS&E is $843,000. The personal services is $676,000. So, I mean, do we normally do we talk about like what that is somewhere within the within our presentation somewhere other than that chart? I mean, if not, I just asked Mr. Smith. I mean,
no, that we do not. This will be included within our budget book. So these funds were added to showcase that. We also have an employee that is specifically attached to the Parks Trust, which is our nutrition program coordinator, and wanted to showcase that within the personal services. But for the rest of the presentation, it would be strictly the general fund.
okay, so once again, so these position, this personal services that's on this chart here is not part of our position allocation list. None of this here. I mean, I don't know because I don't have the details on it.
Yes, just the parks. Let's see.
The park, I'm sorry, the park trust it wouldn't be included in your position allocation list because it's just here for information. That's actually all employment related to that is decided by the actual board itself.
Okay, so just to clarify then, so this chart here on that second page for special funds, none of that is wrapped up into our positions on our position allocation list for fiscal year 2023. That's 676,000 figure, correct?
It's a portion of that. We have a person that is 0.4, as you see, 0.40. If you can pull up slide 3, go back forward. We have a split funded person, which is the nutrition program coordinator, who is 0.40 that is showcased it here. As we see right here, this is all of our special funds. The employee is coming specifically out of one fund, and I'll be happy to send you that information of the split funded allocation to showcase that.
I'm curious to know what the other amount is in there, less than 40%. What that entails, but I'll send an email. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you, Ms.
All right, thank you very much. And I would like to recognize Council Member Cabrera At this point, if there's no more questions specifically for OMB, let's dive right into it. Director Smith, you could introduce yourself in your department. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. President Congo, Chairman Johnson, City Council, and City Council staff, thank you for the opportunity to present Parks and Recreation's FY 2023 budget this evening.
I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. Yeah, it sounds like an echo. I don't know WIT. Is there something we can do?
Unfortunately, that's on his end, so we would not be able to do anything about that.
Could it be a possibility that is there someone else there with you, Mr. Smith, that's also logged into this account? If so, that can cause feedback.
Yeah.
So they have to have their audio out, because if not, it's going to cause that echo sound. I'm sorry, Chairman.
Has it been fixed? Is there still an echo?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, let me just go into the other one.
Mr. Chair, if I may, all they have to do is take off the audio. They can still watch it, just take off the audio.
That was what Ms. Bass Knight suggested, Vice Chair. Yes, so I think if they cut off their audio or not, then Mr. Smith can go into a different room. That works. I think we'll be on track.
Is there still an echo?
Yes.
All right, it ain't gonna work. Hello, can you hear me? How is it?
Sounds perfect now.
All right, forgive me for that. Okay, if I may begin again, President Congo, Chairman Johnson, City Council and City Council staff, thank you for the opportunity to present Parks and Recreation's FY 2023 budget this evening. I'd like to thank Mayor Mike Pizicki for giving me an opportunity to continue my life work serving the people in a new capacity as Director of Parks and Recreation, and Chief of Staff Tanny Washington for providing guidance as we move the department to a new era of customer service for the residents of our amazing city. I would also like to thank various members of City Council for their encouragement during these 10 months. It's been 10 months and 20 days since I started as Director of Parks and Recreation. These last 10 months have been the most rewarding experience in my professional career. As much as I've learned, I hope I've spent as much time listening to the needs and concerns of my staff, the administration, City Council, and most importantly, the residents, community centers, and community organizations of Wilmington that strive to grow our partnership as we prepare the future for our children. We've had a successful year with exciting updates across the department. And as I enter my second year with a budget that I've had input in for the first time, I believe Parks and Recreation is positioned to have an even more successful fiscal year with new programs, newly improved parks, and a developed and motivated workforce. I must end with sharing my sincere gratitude and appreciation for the Parks and Recreation Department, the managers, full-time staff, and temporary workers that show up every day ready to serve our families. I am the 4th director in 6 years, and they've been amazing in supporting me as I have come on as director. With that, I'd like to begin. Thank you.
All right, and Mr. Smith, will this be you presenting, or will it be anyone else from the department?
It'll just be me presenting.
Okay, all right, excellent. All right, well let's dive into it. If we could go to question 1 regarding the COVID-19 pandemic, can you talk about how Parks Department has changed in response to the COVID pandemic and how it serves its youth? And then as a subpart, do you have any updates on the Youth Master Plan in response to the pandemic?
Yeah, so in December, the administration and members of the City Council and I sat down to discuss the Youth Master Plan. And once we reviewed it, we looked at the sections of it, and we're now in the process of developing the appropriate sections needed to begin forming the Youth Master Plan. That isn't necessarily a reaction to COVID. That is just what was on the time, what was timed to happen with the Youth Master Plan. In terms of specific programming that was developed because of COVID, Youth and Family Services increased the amount of meals that were served, and proud to say we served over 1 million meals last year. In addition to that, across the department, we have different initiatives. Out of the Hicks Anderson Center, we had REAP, which is a remote educational academic program specifically created for COVID. That's with our partner and sponsored by Christiana School District. There was Grazing in the Grass. And then this year, moving forward, there are 3 programs that we're ready to roll out now, pilot programs, which is our remote control pilot program, a miniature golf program, and our T-ball league. And that's question number 1.
Okay, and then the sub part about the, actually, you know what, I think we left this off. I'm kind of freewheeling here, but if we, in response to the pandemic, I believe I asked Public Works the same question, but where is your department in terms of compensation for your frontline workers who work during COVID? Is it the same as Public Works, where a check is expected next month?
Well, I haven't heard anything specific about when the check will arrive, but the appropriate names were given, and I'm looking forward to an update shortly, I'm sure.
Okay, and Park Department.
It is the same. I'm sorry,
Okay.
Chairman. It's the same for all the unions.
Okay. Well, and let's clarify, I know there's both union and non-union employees.
Yes, that's
in Parks.
correct.
So are eligible non-union employees going to be included? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay, excellent. Well, I appreciate that update. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for leaving that question out because I had it on Public Works and I left off Parks, but thank you very much, Director Smith. Now, if we could move on and discuss this.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see.
No, I'm sorry. I know that question was a Public Works, but I didn't know if I missed it. So, did you say did they receive their money? Is that what you said? Did you say anything? No.
Councilmember Oliver, I believe the Chief of Staff Washington reiterated during Public Works that the check should be coming, I guess, in May. So
okay, and and you said that's for the union and non-union. Is that what you said?
That's correct. For those who qualify to receive it. Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry. Thank you. I didn't know. Okay.
Okay, perfect. All right, Councilmember McCoy.
Thank you. I just wanted to verify that the administration actually has now finally figured out who those qualified persons are.
Yes, we've had that information, Councilmember McCoy. It was just a matter of us meeting with the respective union members, union presidents, and sharing what the premium pay looks like for them. So yeah, we've collected that information from the department heads on who actually was an essential employee during the pandemic.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very, very much. And if there's no more questions specifically on this, then we can move to discussing the vacancies currently in your department and what the plan is.
Yeah, so currently we have 4 vacancies in our department, and they're all have been posted, and we're looking forward to bringing on new staff to ensure that we meet the benchmark that the mayor has going into the summer season.
Okay. All right. And do you have any position changes at all in your department?
We have a position that we would like to reinstate, which is the executive director of the William Hicks Anderson Community Center. Currently, the deputy director serves as the executive director of the William Hicks Anderson Community Center. The department needs this position reinstated to meet the expectations of the administration, the city, and the residents. And it has been some time that we've been functioning without that piece. And
okay, I believe there are some questions, Director Smith. First up is Councilmember McCoy. I think you re-raised. Oh, okay, now it's down. That was before. Or do you have a
no,
question?
I'm sorry.
For this one?
I'm sorry. I did re-raise my hand.
Okay.
It was we had skipped over 1B. I was just trying to. I wanted to make certain that I had my attention was drawn somewhere else, and I just wanted to make certain I went back. I looked at that screen. If you wouldn't mind.
Okay, WIP, and if we can go back to 1B about the youth master plan and the summer curfew.
Okay. Yes. So thank you so much for rewinding that. I just wanted to make certain that I got a chance to look at that better. So it says if the curfew for the minors is enforced. Well, is that something that we're actually going to move forward in? Is it enforcing curfews? I just wanted to see whether or not that was actually something that we had looked into. Is that something that Parks is looking into trying to get curfews enforced?
No, ma'am.
No, that was the question. I'm sorry, Councilmember McCoy, that came from City Council.
Yeah, so let me maybe I can clarify this. I believe, and maybe as a setting, Director Smith and Chief of Staff Washington, I believe per the city code, from my knowledge of the code, there is a youth curfew on the books. I believe it's rarely enforced. So I think the specific question is more, is the city looking to enforce, and if they are, is there programming available for the kids?
Okay, thank you. I understand now. So, and with that being stated, this is their response stating that these are the things that they've already lined up to try to keep the children engaged.
That's correct.
Yeah.
None of these are during the time limit of a curfew, though.
Well, the question, I guess, is a 2-part question. So it's COVID-19, and then there's the aspect of a curfew. So I'm not sure. I responded based on COVID-19. At this point, we don't know what time the curfew would be or what our response would be in terms of programming, what would be appropriate at nighttime. The parks close at dusk. So most of this is in response to COVID-19.
Okay, I understand. And will is anything from the, I guess, the summer safe haven, that portion is basically stuff that we receive those funds from the state. So, but that wouldn't be part of your answer also, I would guess, about, how you're keeping, what's that, William Hicks Anderson open maybe for the after hours.
Well, yeah, if once again, not knowing what time the curfew would be, but we hope to have safe havens throughout the city again. And we would operate with William Hicks Anderson Center being one of those safe havens. And as you know, we fund the YET program, and that will be a safe haven as well.
Yeah, that's further in the presentation related to this safe havens.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, just double checking the board. Council Member Spadola.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Smith.
Good evening, Council.
Can you go more into the history of this position? I'm familiar with a few of the previous EDs there. When was the last time we had an ED at the Hicks Anderson Center? And can you be super specific about the shortcomings at the Hicks Anderson without this position, please?
Correct. Forgive me for not knowing the exact answer. I would say 2018 is the last time that we had the executive director. And so with all of the areas that we're looking to be better in executing, the executive director position right now has been filled by the deputy director. His hours are associated with the William Hicks Anderson Community Center. So meaning there isn't and we need him there because we need someone in that spot. But what that means is that there isn't a deputy director in deputy director hours. So those day-to-day operations are being done by myself in the midst of trying to do all the other things that a director would be doing, going out to communities, meeting residents, going to community associations, developing new partnerships, looking for new programming. So it just makes it difficult to ask one person to do two things. And so that would be the shortcoming, and the direction that we're trying to go towards is just being able to get to our full capacity of being able to provide programming and provide service at a high level. And it's difficult to do that short staff at that level.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Smith. All right, if we could move on to, I believe we're on question 4. This is the temp salary line.
Yeah, so 1.2 million in temporary salaries. As the slide indicates, youth and family service was the primary increase, is the area that increased, and it's due to minimum wage going up. Next slide.
Okay, now will the temp workers in parks be affected by the rise in the minimum wage? I think there was some discussion maybe in earlier budget proceedings about that.
Forgive me, I didn't hear the beginning part of your question.
Will the rise in the minimum wage affect the cost going forward of these temp workers? Do we have anybody who makes below $15 an hour?
I'm gonna say below 15 an hour. No. No, you're talking about, if you're talking about youth, currently at 1050, and maintenance has some below that as well. So increasing the minimum wage will have an effect on across the board. Yeah.
Okay, so there will be an increase going forward. So that temp salary line figure will look a little higher in future years, right?
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Council Member Fields.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Smith, we have a lot of, I see in Parks and Rec, you have a lot of temporary positions. Have you looked at making some of these temporary positions a full-time position? I mean, have you looked at the different, what it would cost the city and benefits and paying them full versus what it is, paying them salary?
Well, if we were to pay them, so to specifically answer your question, no, not across the board, but we generally know that if we go full-time, that's going to come with additional costs to the city.
May I follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So what, I mean, I guess this is what I'm thinking. If you have part-time, take the make one full-time, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to figure out how can we cut away these part-time positions and make them full-time, take 2 part-times and make it 1 full-time. I mean, I'm just trying to see how we could do that to better benefit, save some money, maybe cost effective. I don't know. I was just thinking.
Yeah. So may I, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I believe a lot of these limited service employees, this is like seasonal. So
Right.
it's best to just have them during when we need them at the peak seasons. If we try to employ them full-time, then the cost will go up astronomically because we're talking about pensions and healthcare and things of that nature. So I think this is the best way that we should handle this because it really is a seasonal type of job.
Thank you. I didn't know if it was seasonal or if they were just part-time throughout the whole year. So that makes sense that they're just seasonal. Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. Councilmember Oliver.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just want to make a statement. Whoever's working the slides, I think her question was on the previous slide. When it gets like that, can we go back to the slide because it can be confusing for our viewers? Thank you.
All right, so noted. Thank you. All right, let's go to question 5. Director Smith, if we could talk about the professional fee and consultant budget line. And also there's safe haven question in there as well.
Correct. So this is it should say 317,000 budgeted for professional fees and consultants and temporary agencies. So this is our way of being able to cover a few areas, but it allows us to bring in unique programming. It allows us to fill gaps where we see them. And sort of like the seasonal work and the part-time work, it allows us to be specific about where we need support throughout the year. So the additional 10,000 is coming in the administrative line. And once again, that is for the ability to identify programming, whether it be at the Hicks Anderson Center or programming that would be geared towards the community as a whole. These dollars was initially in maintenance and was reallocated to administration.
Mr. Johnson. Councilman Johnson.
I don't see a hand. Who is that speaking? Councilmember Oliver? Yeah, do you have a question? Okay. All right, so I'm not sure what occurred, but if there's any questions on that, let me know. Oh, Councilmember Spadola.
Thanks. I apologize if I missed it, but the maintenance, Mr. Smith, that the temp agencies are performing, is that maintenance of the grounds and?
Yes.
Okay.
That's yes.
And they're plugging in gaps of what city workers are unable to do?
Well, yeah, so it's a few things. It could mean providing support for a special activity. It could be providing support at our pools. It could be, just the general work that we typically have. It would also cover equipment rentals and contracted maintenance.
Gotcha. Do you think you could break that number down? I'm curious to see. Like the breakdown that you just mentioned. Do you think we could break that down more, and you could get that to Marshall?
That is something we can follow up and get that to you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, very well. If there's no more questions on 5, then if we could, Director Smith, move to 6, the discussion about the cost for pools and spray parks.
Yeah, so this is a general operating cost for operating the 5 pools during the summer. Across the board is $42,000, except the PS DuPont, which is only a 6-week program, and the William Hicks Anderson Community Center, which we run all year long. Okay.
Right.
Next slide is looking at our locations of our spray park.
No,
Sorry.
thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Oliver. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I know last year you had some issues with some of the lifeguards and over prices. It wasn't open as much. Or have y'all been publicizing that, putting it out? I mean, in advance, lifeguards needed. And I know y'all used to do a training for lifeguards. Is that still in effect?
Yes, we are in the process. Well, we've already began the process of looking for lifeguards to come on board. But as you're probably aware, there was a lifeguard shortage across the country because of COVID and lapse in certifications and the inability to get those certifications. So everyone is aggressively going after the same group of people. So yeah, that our goal is the same to approach that. We had a staggered salary line. So based on how many years you were a lifeguard, you were paid a different amount. And so the hope is to attract those lifeguards to come back and that we don't lose them to competition.
Mr. Chair, may I follow up?
Yes, please.
So again, let me ask you this. Have you started recruiting for lifeguards? Because the pools will be open before we know it. And I remember, I don't know, in the past, they would be. So are y'all currently recruiting for lifeguards, and are y'all offering that lifeguard class before the summer hits? And then everybody's like, the pool can only open 4 days or 5 days because we don't have enough lifeguards. I guess my point is, I would think you would start looking for lifeguards like around in March, even though it's maybe in April, but not just before a month before the pool start opening, because to me, it just makes no sense. So are y'all currently doing the lifeguard class? Are y'all offering that class to various people who are interested? Because I don't see any advertisement.
Yes, it started about a month ago. I'll make sure that you get a copy of that flyer.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay.
And Director Smith, what is the baseline starting salary for lifeguards?
$16
an hour. Okay. All right. Thank you. If we can go to the next question, what is the proposal? Any highlights with the miscellaneous service line?
Well, this is $304,000 budgeted to miscellaneous services, but they cover a range of things depending on the department as they're listed on the planned use section. So I will say for maintenance, the one thing that's probably missing there is the damage or vandalism to park equipment and having to replace that. I think it's probably the only thing that's missing in that planned use section. But yeah.
Okay. Ms. Basnight?
Mr. Smith, I just want to clarify too, because I didn't want to get any misperception. for the maintenance, where it say Rodney Square landscaping, that money too, I mean, it's not only just for Rodney Square, right? It's for other city parks. It's not just for one park, right?
That's
Okay,
correct.
make sure, all right, thank you.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair.
Yes,
So
Councilmember.
why does it say Rodney Square? Why does it specify Rodney Square? Is there a reason, Mr. Director?
Well, that was that question last year, so we just added it in there just to be specific about all the areas that we're covering. So that's why it's in there.
Okay, well, it would be nice. Okay, I'll talk to you offline about that, because if that's the case, put Pricey's Park up there.
Yeah, I mean, we could have listed quite a few things on here, so we just limit it to these sections here, but you're correct.
All right, Director Smith. We can move then to the, there's no more question on this. We can move to question number 8. Any highlights with the materials and supplies line?
Well, once again, across the board, we're going to have a variance of what we're using these dollars for. Sort of self-explanatory when we're looking at it. There are times where one activity may need more resources than another throughout the year. So we sort of kind of just be mindful of what activity we're trying to execute, how many people we plan on being there, and try to fit within our budget. But for the most part, this is where these dollars are being spent.
Thank you. If we could then move to question 9, the rentals budget line.
Correct. So once again, another line item that is very dependent on the department. We are trying to change a few things. For instance, we have struggled in the past with getting things back in the condition in which we sent them out. So renting allows us not to take on that burden of damaged equipment and things of that nature. But I think the most important thing is going into the season is our porta potties, making sure that we have those things throughout the city, and making sure that we have those traditional activities that we do. For instance, the senior Thanksgiving or the Christmas breakfast, those traditional activities that we do, making sure that we're able to conduct them every year, because the residents love doing them and we love providing that service.
Okay, Councilmember Oliver, you have a question?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm looking, I know in the past, it's always been issues with chairs, tents, tables, and I've spoken to you, Mr. Director, and some of your staff regarding the chairs and tents and tables. If it's one event on one side, and it's on the west side, and it's another event on the north side, it's I've had it stated to me several times where we don't have enough chairs. So I was wondering, in this budget, did you include to increase your chairs and tents? And, like we discussed, like I've discussed with some of your staff, a lot of them chairs and tents and stuff is old. I mean, you have this large department and you have 3 tents for the whole department. So I'm just wondering if you plan on, that just looks like a little bit of money, $15,000 for recreational. I would think you would put some more in there if you're going to order some update equipment.
Correct.
Have you thought of ordering some more tables and chairs?
We have thought about that, and we're still thinking that through. I guess here's the issue: is we do not charge for anything. So it's what do we put in place for materials being used and damaged, right? So how do we continue to replace that if we're not charging for it? So in certain situations, it's easier to rent. For instance, we don't own any porta potties. But we've had situations where it might have been good to own some porta potties, but we're not prepared to take care of all the other things related to having a porta potty. So yes, we have thought about various things that we could buy, but we rent, and wondering what would it look like if we purchased and owned. And we're still thinking those things through, but so yeah.
May I follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I'm not talking about the porta potties. I'm strictly talking about the chairs, the tents, and the tables that have been over there for maybe about 10 or 15 years. Everybody over there talks about it. It's no secret. As I stated before, if Councilwoman feels it's having something at the center outside, and Councilwoman, I mean, it's not, to me, it wouldn't be about who's tearing up the equipment. I've never even seen that. Well, not in the 3rd district, and I've very rarely even heard of people tearing up chairs or anything. I guess my point is, I would think that you coming in fairly new and you can look at the equipment. I would think that you would want to buy a few more chairs. I'm not saying go buy 100 chairs or 100 tents, but I know the time I've served on council, it's literally like 4 tents for a whole Parks and Recreation department. So I just want to make that clear. I'm definitely not talking about the porta pots. That has nothing to do with my conversation. My conversation is regarding chairs that have this labels, and they're pretty sturdy. So I've never even heard of nobody tearing up the chair. So that's new to me. And I'm sure, I know, speaking for myself and other council members that have had events, when I talk to them at the end, they've always packed up the stuff, and you guys always have been able to come pick them up. So if anybody's taken them, it was before my time and your time, I'm sure. I've never heard of events. I think one time a shovel, and that was returned. So I'm just merely mentioning and I've looked at the tables, they old, they have paint, they got holes in them. So I would think you would want to, Parks and Recreation would want to present themselves as a professional Parks and Recs. When I go to the state, I'm sure they have much more money, but I'm not even getting into that. I go to a state event, I see the tables, I don't see holes in them. So we should care more about our residents, our constituents, than it's not even about y'all renting out the tables, or you're not charging for the tables. I mean, this is about the city of Wilmington constituents.
So and I believe Chief of Staff Washington,
Yeah.
Some comments.
I think there's a little bit of confusion about this, because council member, this is line is discussing rentals. And so we're talking about the rentals of chairs, tents, and tables. So essentially what you're saying is that we should increase our rental line so we can have the ability to rent out more tables and chairs to disperse to the community, because we're not owning these.
No, I'd like to follow up. I'm just talking about purchasing some chairs, tables, and tents. I know you rent some, but I'm talking about having our own tables and chairs, like we do have some over there. I'm not talking about 100 chairs, but I would think if it's only about 20 over there, because most of the time I have to go over to the warehouse and borrow some of their chairs, and it's kind of embarrassing. So I'm not talking about rental when you're having a big event. I'm just talking about some small events, just, at least 40, 50 chairs. I mean, Parks and Recreation don't own 40 of their own chairs. I just think it's embarrassing and a little disturbing. That's all. I wasn't talking about the rental. I was mentioning that I would think that we would try to step up our game per se and purchase some more chairs and a few tables. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Okay, all right. And again, I think that's a conversation probably for another day in terms of the path forward for that. But all right, so if we can move to question 10, Director Smith, so we could talk about any highlights with the overcounted count line.
Yes. So overtime is budgeted for $410,000. Maintenance is, covering city-sponsored events. There are times often where we don't know exactly how long that would be. So those special events definitely triggers the overtime. And the cost for recreation, the cost to cover 1102 employees, supervise evening, weekend, holiday, special events, as well as summer aquatics, Eden Athletic Field, and other park locations. So this is really something that is sort of difficult for us to manage, but it's kind of based on whatever the activity is.
Okay. Ms. Basnight, do you still have a comment?
Yeah, just there's two of your colleagues that need to be recognized.
Can you send it to me in the chat?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because I'm not seeing it on my screen. Thank you very much. And if we can move to question 11, Director Smith. Can you highlight anything with the community activities budget line? And we noticed that you exceeded last year's budget line. So do you have any insight on that?
Yeah, so we're excited to have Arts in the Park again, and they're participating, providing programming throughout various parks, and also at the William Hicks Anderson Community Center. The increase would have come from the community donation. If I'm not mistaken, we went up $1,000 on the community donation line. And it's just, once again, there are the residents reach out and have great ideas and things that they would love to see. And often, you know, one idea could be $500, $750. So it's just an opportunity to be able to support two different people, or maybe three people. And then also the other piece that kind of drives the cost is our movie nights. And so yeah, those particular areas, the movie nights, the Summer in the Parks is something that we do every year. The funding has gone down each year for that, but the 1,500 is up, and it's just an opportunity to provide someone who wants to do something good in the community.
Okay. And I'd like to recognize Councilmember Cabrera and Councilmember Gray. I believe there are some questions on this topic. First, I'll start with Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last year I had 2 movies in 2 different parks, and there was a schedule. Do we have a schedule yet for what the dates are, or what the movies are available, so that we can plan? Because I know last year there was a conflict sometimes with 2 different parks wanting the same movie on the same night. So are we going to get a list of that and a schedule anytime soon? Thank you.
Yeah, so what we are attempting to do this year, because there were quite a few movie nights that honestly there really wasn't anyone there. And so so this year what we're trying to do is coordinate play streets, Summer in the Parks, and movie night, and Grazing in the Grass, figuring out how can we have 2 programs on the same night, so we kind of just roll into the movie night. So we're still working on finalizing that, because it is a 4-way program that we're trying to coordinate everything, align everything. So that will be coming shortly, and we'll make sure that you get that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Fields.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Smith, are you also going to be doing, Blazing in the Grass this year? I think Mr. Did an excellent job with that. And every time he did it, I seen a lot of community people out at those events. I think it was very successful, and I've been getting calls asking if you're going to do that again. They love the cornhole toss. They love that you had Connect Four, all kinds of stuff, and you provided food for those children that didn't have food. So I just really thought it was a good idea to bring the community out to listen to some music and get fresh air. I think it was a great thing. So where is that budgeted in the community activities?
Okay, so that originally was not a budgeted item. It was an activity that was created because of COVID, because we couldn't do other things. So We will do grazing in the grass again, but like I mentioned previously, we are going to align it with other programs that we're running. So yes, it will definitely come back. We look forward to doing it again, and it wasn't previously budgeted, so we're just being smart about how we make sure that we're able to bring it back. So it probably won't be at the same frequency, but we will have grazing in the grass again.
May I follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
I just want to say I won my award for grazing in the grass as well. I got me a plaque. But thank you so much for having that. That's it.
All right, Council Member Spadola.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, and I know you inherited the system, so this isn't on you, and I believe we exchanged a few emails about it last year, but when you're planning the park events in the different districts, can you better incorporate the at-large members? I frequently remind the administration we have 13 council members, not just 8 district members. So as you're coordinating events, please coordinate with the at-large members as well.
I definitely look forward to being able to work with you and all the at-large members, because we definitely looking for a different approach in terms of getting out information about what we're doing, and recognizing that at-large members are across the city. So we want to make sure that we're utilizing you. So we definitely will be giving you a call.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, if we could, Director Smith, we could move to question 12. This is an update on all of Parks and Recs programs, and also specifically the attendance of the programs. Actually, before we go into that, Councilmember Gray, do you have a question about the last?
Well, I was going to say, a suggestion that I have is when the different communities request movie night or these events, that it could be coordinated with the council member, because that's where sometimes the conflict comes in. A community in a district has requested something, and so has the council member for the same time period. And I agree with Mr. Smith that several of the movie nights, there was only 1 or 2 people there. So I'm glad they're trying to coordinate to make the event better for the community and more well attended. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and then now on the question 12, Director Smith, do you have any highlights with the program?
Yeah, so if you go to the next slide, thank you, you will see the list of the activities, minus any of the pilot programs that we are getting ready to do. If there's any specific one, I can speak on it. I will, being a track guy, I will take the opportunity to talk about the Wednesday track and field program. We're really excited to be able to go to fully automated times, meaning no longer be hand times. These would be times that if you break the world record at our event, you broke the world record in real life. And so we're hoping that will attract a certain level of athlete that's excited about running. We're hoping that it'll attract some professional athletes, but also we're hoping that some of our master runners, 35 and older, are excited about coming out and running, as well as our young kids who are still trying to qualify for things in the summer. So yeah, if there's any specific program, I'll speak on it.
I have a question, Director Smith. Do you have field in that as well? Because I was a college thrower. So if you get a field event, maybe you'll get me back out there. Is it just track though? Is there any field?
I'll say 90% will have shot put. There will be long jump and triple jump. But yeah, so we'll have a few field events as well as relay events.
Okay, all right. Very, very good. I might have to get back out there too, come out of retirement. Thank you.
Looking forward to it.
So Councilmember Oliver.
Now, I just want to make a statement regarding the summer feeding program. I think it's an excellent program. I really appreciate the way the staff was riding around feeding people, especially through the COVID, getting out and making sure, and even knocking on some doors. But it was really good to see me. You had some various spots, some locations, like you had one in Howard. I know you was over at Riverside, I think Kingswood, but just in general, I saw them on the west side, just riding around in the vans. I hope y'all continue that. And just feeding the youth for the summer. I just think that summer feeding program is excellent, and y'all keep up the good work over there. Who runs that program? Is that Natalie?
So Youth and Family Services is the division that takes care of our summer feeding program, and that's run by Dr. Nicole Adams.
Right. Okay. Okay. Both of the Nicoles are great over there. And okay. Thank you. I'll talk about Carmen later. Okay. Thank you.
Very well. Miss Beth Knight.
Yeah. Yeah, Mr. Smith, I just wanted to verify the youth and city government for May. That's not council, right? Because we're planning for that event to be the first meeting with council, right, in May. I thought that was set.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, it's in May.
All right, thank you.
All right. No more questions on this. Let's move to question 13. Do you discuss any new vehicle requests?
Yes, this request is being submitted because the position requires that that a vehicle comes with that position. So this is the request that's being submitted for it.
Okay. Very good. Councilmember Oliver.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I know the position requires a new vehicle, but does it have to, how much are them cars running? I know we laying off people and we're talking about, I know the city has laid off various people from the departments because of budget cutting. And now we're talking about a brand new hybrid SUV. How much do they run? Do you know roughly?
Off the top, I'll verify, but off the top of my head, I want to say 29. But that's
I thought there was much more than I'm thinking about a larger. Okay, now I'm thinking about something now. Okay, now you're talking about something about 29. I was thinking much more. Okay, so disregard that. I'm thinking about something that costs a lot more than that.
Okay.
Okay. Very good. Was there a follow? Oh, sorry. All right, that was a hand was still raised. All right, Director Smith, we can move to question 14. Can you discuss the parks that the city maintains, and do you have a summary per district and any updates on the parks, such as new projects?
Yes, so if you go to the next slide, it's the listing. So here we have a listing of projects on deck. That's either whether it's in going to bid or it's actual construction is happening. And then we have projects in the planning underneath that one. The parks and the descriptions are all listed. I don't know if there's a specific question about a particular one.
Sorry about that. Councilmember Gray, I believe you're first up.
Yes, thank you. I see that Haynes Park is listed for the things that has been listed for 2 years. So do we have a date when these things will be complete? The playground renovations, new equipment, and the tennis and basketball court renovations. Do we have a date for the completion of those?
Well, we're hoping that it'll be completed by the end of June, but as you are observing right now, as you're going through the parks, it's under construction right now. Fences are gone, grounds are dug up. So they're working diligently to complete the project as fast as possible. Obviously, rain could slow things down, but our timeline is that we're hoping that everything will be done in June, end of June.
Thank you. Follow up, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
Okay. Way back when this project was first started, prior to the storm destruction of the Haynes Park, there was discussion about drainage and doing something about the flooding. There's a little stream, or it's a water release outlet that goes through the park, and frequently with heavy rains, it floods. And constituents are concerned about, the condition and the mud and the bugs and everything. So I was told that was on a list to be done, probably by Public Works or someone. Is that still scheduled to be looked at?
I imagine it's still on their schedule, and yet you're correct, Public Works would be the ones that would be looking at that.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I believe next up is Councilmember McCoy.
Thank you, Chair. I was looking at projects on deck, projects in planning, wanted to get more of a like a definition of what you mean by planning. I do understand that these are things that we want to see done, but what is like a timeline when it comes to planning?
Well, it'll cover a few things. One, finance. The other would be capacity to do how many projects can we run at one time, and the season. And so that's sort of what it is, and the three main things that we'd be looking at. But then total process, there's the creating of the initial drawings, there's the bid process, there's finding the lowest bidder. So yeah, that's what planning would entail, but it's sort of looking at that second column, second grouping, as we start to move through the first grouping and those projects are coming to a completion, starting to look at that second group.
Okay. All right. Also, may I follow, Chair?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. I actually just want to state, looking at what you have on deck, congratulations to Councilwoman Fields. I've been working with organization trying to get Tilton Park done for a long time. I'm glad to see it finally on here. So I just want to say congrats to her. But I had a question about Rodney Square Phase 2. When we talk about the Rodney Square renovations Phase 2, can you give us just a description of what else is going to happen to that to our central part of downtown?
Okay, well, I'd say this. I'd love to be able to follow up with you on that, give you that full description, but some of it entails addressing
I can answer that if you like. I just had the okay. So I just had the meeting with the Rodney Square Conservancy, and actually what's scheduled to take place, and mind you, this was bond bill money from the state. So there's some hardscape work to be done on the 10th Street side of Rodney Square, in addition to improvements to the steps and railings and the small fountains that are located in the inner square.
Okay, and so will these things take place during the time frame we're going to start having all of our festivals coming up soon? Will it be done before then?
No, we definitely make sure we coordinate it where it's not disruptive to the Clifford Brown Jazz Festival.
Okay.
That's
all I had. Thank you, Chair.
All right, and I just want to preface it again, we are running short on time. I know Parks is definitely concerned in East District, but what I think the prudent thing will be, obviously in conjunction with Public Works Committee, we can have further breakouts or smaller sessions about specific parks in each individual district, simply because, again, high level, we have an idea where we are fiscally, but obviously in the East District, there's projects that are in a pipeline or that need to be worked on, and the budget hearing isn't the appropriate forum for that. So with that in mind, I'm going to first comments and questions. Councilmember Oliver.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I mean, I too been waiting for some work to get done over Price's Park. And I've been waiting for a long time and I don't see it on here, which is disturbing because I can call out some other ones, but just talk about it offline. Thank you. I'm not surprised.
Okay, thank you very much. And Councilmember Gray, your second time. The floor is yours.
I'm sorry, I need to lower my hand. No, thank you.
All right, excellent. All right, thank you very much, Director Smith. And if we could just move to question 15, is there any funds still available in the Park Trust Fund?
Yes, so as of March 31st, 2020, the available balance is $6,486,386.97 is the available balance. And
Okay.
above that is a description of what the Park Trust Fund does.
Okay, Councilmember Fields.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Smith, can we go back to the listing of the parks again? Thank you. So you said Tilton Park is the 5th. Ask you, when did the money, do you know when the funds came in to start working on Tilton Park?
I would say maybe about I want to say a month ago. I'll verify that for you. As you know, considerable amount of dollars was raised outside of the city for that park and Cool Springs. So I want to say about a month ago.
Okay, can I follow up, Mr. Chair?
Yes, please.
The request that was made to the state and senator for the 5th district, that was also a push to get monies for that park. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Councilmember Oliver.
Now, I'm gonna wait till we get to the part. I have a question about Mr. Safra when we get to that that department. When we get to that, thank you.
Mr. Is it a parks question? Because the mayor's office already went, so.
No, go ahead. Yeah, it's
Okay.
a part. It's definitely a parks question because he works over there. So I wait till we get to that particular part. Thank you.
Okay, well, we're actually almost done, so we're
I'll wait till
like
the
the
end.
second to last question. Okay.
I'll wait to the end.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Very well. All right. And just real quick, Director Smith, is there any updates on the beautification commission?
It's currently not active, so.
Okay. Got it.
Is it not active or is it defunct?
Well, I want to say it hasn't been active in probably over 10 years or more. So, in all intents purposes, it's defunct because I don't recall any meetings taking place of the commission.
Okay. All right. Councilmember Gray.
Yes, a couple years ago, my understanding is Haynes Parks Trust Fund was used to clean up the other side of Miller Road next to where the brewery went in, and there was no discussion with anyone in the 1st district before this money was spent for that purpose. Because that part of the park is rarely used. It's just decorative now because of the brewery and the restaurant that's there. So what's the procedure for using the trust funds for the different parks?
Well, I'm gonna ask if Chief of Staff Washington can support with this particular question, your question.
Yeah, so there are some general pots of money. Most of the funds are restricted to particular use However, I don't recall that. I can go back and look at the minutes as if it was you said it was about 2 years ago.
Yes, it was prior to the storm. It was when we were
Yeah.
planning Haynes Park and.
I don't recall off the top of my head, but there was a small pot of money that was available for general use, and that it may have come out of that, but don't hold me to that.
So was that the trust fund, or you're saying that was a different pot of money?
So there's a general pot of money in the park trust that you could use for projects, and most of it's been exhausted. So that's what I'm saying. Don't hold me to that. And then when I say general pot, it's a line in the park trust fund, not really related to Haynes Park, but in the park trust fund where there could be some general use for parks.
Okay, thank you. May I follow up?
Yes, please.
So is there a trust fund for Haynes Park?
Yes, there is.
Oh,
Yes, and we've used a significant amount of money out of the Haynes Park Trust Fund for Haynes Park.
Right. What I was discussing was for Haynes Park also, but I was just saying there's no discussion with the district before you use the money? Or with?
No, there's nothing that demands that we have to have a conversation with the district, depending on what the issue is. It's a vote of the board on how we spend down the funds.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Council Member Oliver.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, now that we're talking about the Beautification Commission, it's a group of us that's trying to reenact that commission. I even met with Division of Horticulture. It used to be a real active commission. Like she said, maybe, I think the chief said maybe 8 or 10 years ago, but a lot of folks that was in that meeting were very active in that commission. So I am definitely in discussions with bringing that commission back. I mean, we talk about beautifying the city and we have all these organizations doing stuff, but we had a commission that did just that. So Marshall Bassnight is very aware of what's going on with that conversation. So I wanted to just put that out there that it's not activated now, but we're talking about bringing that beautification commission back. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Right. Do you have I just saw your hand raised again.
No, I wanted to make a statement before I got offline to Director Smith that his staff does a really good job. Talking about Carmen, who is always there, who's always returning my calls, who does a tremendous job over Parks and Recreation, and Wayne Jefferson, who does an outstanding job at Will Hicks Anderson. I wanted to bring that up because I haven't heard you mention either one of their names. And I know I just heard you say staff, but them two are, to me, are very instrumental in Parks and Recreation. So I wanted to give them their shout out and their kudos. Thanks a lot for a great job.
Thank you very much, Council Member. And actually, before we jump, let's just finish up. We are running short on time. If we could go over just the same question all departments have gotten, Director Smith, just about if council was to reduce the budget by 2%, are there any areas where there's less critical needs where we can maybe trim some?
If I'm being transparent and honest and just what I've perceived in the 10 months that I've been here, I would say no. I think we should be pouring more money to Parks and Recreation and thinking about how we can utilize Parks and Recreation in more unique ways to not only bring communities together, bring families together, help reunite families, but also our part in curbing violence, our part in providing a place where visitors want to come. So my short answer is no. The long answer is I hope that we are moving towards having more funds so that we can do more things.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. And Councilmember Fields.
Thank you. And it would be remiss of me not to mention that Mr. Jefferson, Ms. Carmen, Nicole, both of the Nicoles, and even you, Director, and Mr. Cannon, like everybody. I don't really want to forget anyone, but I just want to say that when I come into, you all make sure that I am notified of what kind of programs are going on. You let me know ahead of time what's happening. They continue to invite me to certain things, and I just really hope that they keep that up. And I know when you get an executive director, I know that person is going to do what they need to do to make sure that I'm aware of things. That way I can get it out to. So just keep up the good work. I know it's been a couple of months, but keep up the good work. We'll see what comes. So thank you very much for what you do. And all the employees of Parks and Rec. I'm sorry, I thank all the employees for Parks and Rec.
Yes, and I again echo those sentiments. Thank you very much, Director Smith, and also Victoria Fuentes Cox as well, and all the supervisors with the maintenance department, who are frontline workers. So again, similar to Public Works, your department has been on the front line. So, again, kudos and thank you for the work that they do. We are running short on time, but I just wanted to flip it to the public if there's any last comments or questions. Okay, going once, going twice. Now back to council for any final comments. Councilmember McCoy.
Thank you, Chair. I actually just wanted to say I didn't get a chance to see. I think I must have blinked. I didn't see anything about the summer safe haven. Like I said, I must have blinked, but I do want to thank administration for making certain that that the funds were always available for the Up Center on a regular basis because of the fact I don't really have a community center. They are my makeshift community center, and I wanted to make certain that that I do appreciate making certain those funds are always available. Also, thank you for Director Smith. That we have definitely been trying to work together on making certain that the programs within all these great programs that are going on within Parks and Recreation are promoted well, that we let the parents know that we are thinking about their kids and that we want to keep them engaged. And I hope that they're actually taking the time to look at their social media feeds, billboards, and everything else that's actually, that they're using to try to make certain that the parents know what's going on. So I look forward to Arts in the Park and grazing in the grass because I had a great time last year.
And I also did have a quick question, Dr. Smith, is has your leadership had an opportunity to meet with Akila Sherrills? As I know we're talking about violence prevention work and
going in and out, Chair.
Okay, is it better now? Can everyone else hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Just clarify, since you are kind of the social service arm of the city, are you scheduled to talk to Akila Sherrills and the team from Newark?
It's not scheduled yet, and I look forward to it. But I've had conversations with John Cook with GVI and Daryl Chambers and the Youth Advocate Program, and so all guys that we have on the ground here doing the work, we have a relationship, and we speak about how we can support each other, whether that's hiring people through maintenance or just providing services and programming to them. So I look forward to speaking with him. But the community that's here that's doing that work, I'm very familiar with them.
Okay, great. I just wanted, again, as we talk about violence prevention work, he's, the landscape analysis, as you know, is a big deal for the city, so we'd appreciate it. And definitely we're going to continue to send youth. I think I had one youth reach out to me today about a job. So I'm going to send that resume to you and see if we can get some employment. Again, I appreciate everything that you and your team does. And again, any final comments? Councilmember Gray, floor is yours.
Just going to say that you're really fading in and out and freezing, so I'm only getting parts of what you're saying, but we're close to the end.
So I don't know if it's it may be your end, Councilmember Gray. I'm in a stable place, but WITN, maybe we can check on that. But nevertheless, It looks like if there's no other final comments or questions, Vice Chair Hartley. Floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I too wanted to just echo my gratitude and appreciation to the Parks and Rec leadership. And I wanted to also mention how even though internally there are gaps to be filled, obviously if you're getting an executive director, and you did mention some of those reasons, but I really could see how the leadership that is there, how they rolled out so many positive programs and great programs for the youth in the community. As you may or may not know, Director Smith, I have a slither of the 4th District over in West Center City. So I've always kept my eye out, for the programs and all the different activities that they are sponsoring over there. And I just want to say, I think they're just doing a great job. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate all the words that's been said. I have an amazing team, and I think above everything is knowing that I am the 4th director in 6 years that they've had to adjust to. And I'm looking forward to the next couple of years of us just really getting to know each other and working at a highest level possible to provide great service.
Sounds good.
All right. So thank you very much. Again, Director Smith, Mr. Jefferson, Dr. Adams, Ms. Woody, Mr. Mustafa, Mr. Williams, and also Mr. Jones from the OMB team for presenting this evening. Any follow-up information, as always, I ask that you provide to Ms. Marshall Bethnight. To wrap it up, the next budget hearing schedule budget hearings are scheduled for this upcoming Monday, April 25th. This tomorrow evening, we do have council, regular council meeting, but Monday continues our budget hearings. We have a little change in schedule. We have Public Works Water Sewer Fund scheduled at 4:30, but actually right at the beginning of that, we have a legislative item to approve an agreement between the city of Wilmington and Newcastle County concerning wastewater treatment. And then we'll go right into the Public Works meeting. And then it will be followed by presentation by the Water Sewer Fund after that. So as always, please tune in to WITN channel 22 to watch the meeting. You can also watch online at witn22.org. And as always, budget information and the PowerPoint slides are available at wilmdebudget.org. And at this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Any
Aye.
opposed? All right. Well, this meeting has concluded, and thank you very much, everyone. Be safe and well. Take care.